Hey, Anita.
Hey, Karen. What's up?
We got a lot to talk about this week.
Yes, we do. A lot of things happened this week. Well, let's do it.
The sky's the limit, the truth is on our side. There's no time for worry, let's show the world our pride. Whether another comes up with a surprise, we all will discover where our fate will lie. On a blue wave, we rise to save the day. Only me, only you can let our hearts sail away on a blue wave. The smoke is now fire, it's time we react. Let's stand together to take things back. No excuses, no parades. We have to realize there'll be no tomorrow unless we organize on a blue wave, blue wave. We rise to save the day. Only me, only you can let our hearts sail away on a blue wave. You've got a voice, let's hear it sing. You've got a choice, so let freedom ring. Let freedom ring on a blue wave, we rise to save the day. Only me, only you can let our hearts sail away on a blue wave, we rise to save the day. Only me, only you can let our hearts sail away on a blue wave. On a blue wave.
So, that song, there's a little bit of a backstory, Anita. In the planning of our podcast, we were looking for music that would encapsulate and capture the essence of our podcast. And my son, Jimmy, our executive producer,
Hello, producer Jimmy here.
he went on and he started a search. And I'm going to hand it over to him so he can tell the story.
Yeah, so basically, during the creation of the early days of the podcast, I was, looking around on the internet for a song that we could use as a theme, or even just something that was a couple seconds that brings out the theme of Blue Wave or, TruBlu, whatever, similarly to the show. And I was looking on YouTube, and this guy, Jason Berk, came up with a song called Blue Wave. And so I listened to it, and I thought it would be perfect. It seemed like he was kind of a songwriter that, his view count was like maybe in the couple hundreds, nothing like super crazy, over the top or anything like that. So I figured it would be easy to, reach out to him and ask for, licensing of the song. And so I did. So I found his email. I reached out, I asked about, what it would look like if we could license the song for the show. I said, I thought it would be perfect. And he emailed me back a few days later and I sent it over to you to check it out and see what happened. And then
Yeah. So basically, the response was, "Hey, Jimmy, sorry for the delay. Been a busy week. I'd be honored to have our song as your theme. Given the overall nature of the situation, I think the best honorarium would be if you would be willing to make a donation to City of Hope towards their work with colon cancer." And I would urge all of our listeners to go and do just that. And then you'll know why as soon as I finish this email. In memory of our friend Zach Nilsson, son of the legendary Harry Nilsson. Zach was a friend of both myself and Art Nordoff, who wrote the words to the song. Really, the whole idea was his. He was TruBlu all the way. Art passed away early last year of a suspected stroke or heart attack, but nothing brought him more joy in his lifetime than Harry Nilsson. And he was as sad as I was when Zach lost his fight with colon cancer. Zach had been treated at City of Hope, and we want to thank them for their tireless efforts to help our friend. So basically, for those of you listening, and our viewers, listeners of Stephanie Miller show, you will know or find out that Art Nordoff was actually Art from Hollywood. And he was a beloved Steph head, a regular caller into the show. And during the pandemic, when we started our weekly Zoom calls with all the Steph heads and mooks, Art Nordoff, Art from Hollywood, was a regular attendee, and he would join us from his home in Brazil, where he recently had retired. And so, it was just lovely seeing him and just hearing the stories about how life in Brazil was at that time. And then, he kind of missed him a couple of weeks there. And then shortly thereafter, we were kind of asking, like, what happened to Art? We haven't seen him for the last couple of weeks. And then I received a DM from Cindy Berk. And of course, at that time, I didn't, really put two and two together, but she said, had mentioned that her son had known Art, and that sadly learned of his passing. And so that's kind of the backstory. And Cindy Berk, of course, is a loyal Stephanie Miller show listener as well, a beloved. And
his mom.
Yep, his mom. So anyway, it's one of those things where for me, it just felt like this is a sign. This is an omen that we are on the right track, that this is meant to be. And it's a beautiful tribute to Art, right?
Yeah. It's an incredible story. And it just kind of makes you think, he wanted this song. He wanted us to use the song.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's from his heart. And I know, I can imagine that he wrote it in the lead up to the 2018 midterm election, because that was really the first time that we were, using the term blue wave, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So anyway, here's to you, our beloved Art from Hollywood.
Thank you, Art.
Cheers to Art.
Yes.
And thank you to Jason Berk and his mom, Cindy.
Yes, thank you, Jason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Anita, know, as is the situation over the last several years, in the middle of the night, we find ourselves kind of waking up, thinking, with our heads reeling about all of the things
What
going on.
What are you talking about?
Oh,
that doesn't ever happen to me. Every night, 3 o'clock sharp.
Every night. And so
wake up in a panic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, Anita, so I think, I don't know if it was last night or the night before, but I remember, picking up my phone, as I often do, and who should I see a retweet from but Anita from San Antonio, my friend on Twitter. And yes, I'm going to call it Twitter. And you had retweeted this article in I believe you say it, Politicusa?
Politicusa.
Thank you.
Yes, it's Sarah Reese Jones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And, she was just talking about, the Democrats and, while there's all of these wins over the last, several years under President Biden and the Democrats, that the sad, and this is a quote, she says, the sad truth is most voters don't know and don't care.
No, people don't vote on policy. Honestly, they don't. They vote on something that affects them personally. Mm-hmm.
Well, and so, the other thing, and then she went on to say, while there isn't any good news about the overturning of Roe, one thing it inadvertently did was wake up the electorate to the loss of freedom posed by an increasingly authoritarian Republican Party.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, they are trying to take away. I mean, Republicans want to control what we do with our bodies, who we love, who we sleep with. I mean, they want to control all aspects of our life, what books our children can read.
Right.
That has become pretty obvious.
Well, exactly. And I mean, you, of course, know firsthand down in Texas what that's, looking like.
Oh, my God, yes. I mean, my daughter, who's a teacher, she just started teaching second grade. And let me just tell you, the teachers live in fear of discussing anything. Because there's a child in her class that has two moms. And she can't ask her about it. She can't ask about how her moms are doing. She can't even discuss it because she could get in trouble for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, we don't have a don't say gay, but basically it's the same thing.
Yeah. Well, and then, of course, there's the restrictions on travel as well.
Yes. There's a county, well, it's a city of Lubbock. Mm-hmm. And what they've done is that they put it like a abortion. I mean, they put a ban on travel through that town to get an abortion. So basically, I guess they're going to be able to stop every woman that they think is of childbearing age and make them take a pregnancy test.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, I have no idea how they're going to enforce this, but this is what's happening here.
Yeah. So does it mean that like women, every single woman traveling through Texas has to have a pregnancy test?
That's what it would seem like.
Well,
yeah.
and here, Anita, you and I are very, very young looking. And so, I mean, are they going to stop us? Yeah. I mean, I'm barren at this point, right? It's like, our wombs are like, dusty
Nothing
places.
Growing there.
Nothing growing there. So, what does that mean? I mean, we could be mistaken. It's just like, what are we going to be arrested because we don't have a pee stick?
I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know how they're going to enforce it, but they maybe, they can also just get $10,000 if they catch somebody helping you or driving you to get an abortion.
Exactly.
I mean, we've got bounties. Women have bounties on their heads here in Texas.
Right. And it's like, we could, I mean, I think that, like joking about it, of course, it kind of takes, some of the anxiety around it, but this is very, very real. And, for me, what scares me is this talk by some, not all. I mean, because of course they don't even seem to be able to come to a consensus on exactly how they want to define, at what point a woman can, make that decision with her doctor. And, oh, by the way, you have to go to court to prove that you were, raped or there was, these exceptions, right?
Let me just add on to that. The exception stuff is bullshit.
Yeah.
If they tell you they have exceptions, they're trying to trick you because exceptions mean nothing. If they have an exception for rape or incest, like you said, you're going to have to prove that in court. And most incest is not reported. If your uncle or your stepfather or your cousin, that thing stays in the family for the most part. I mean, most of the time.
Sure.
I mean, how many women have we known that were victims of sexual abuse within their family?
Right.
That wasn't reported.
Right. Well, exactly right. And then, and then the situation with rape, I mean, women, how many rapes are not reported? And so, historically, so now what?
Not only just not reported,
Yeah.
would they have to have a conviction? I mean, what is the deal here?
Yeah, exactly.
The exceptions are bull. So when you hear that, oh, they're not even giving you exceptions. Exceptions are meaningless to women. They really are.
Right.
And we're seeing through all that now, I think.
Right.
It's like the 15-week ban is stupid because most women, the vast majority of women, like 99%, have an abortion in the first trimester.
Yeah.
By the time you're 15 weeks, if you need an abortion, it's because something has gone horribly wrong.
Well,
like your life is in danger or that, the fetus has no brain.
Right, exactly. So, so like, in that situation, there are, like that case where the woman, they found out that their baby wasn't going to survive. And so they ended up, having to go and like talk to their doctor about what the options were. And then because the legal team with their healthcare provider said that even though there was, I believe it was, late term abortion was allowed for a situation like hers, because the legal team there said, well, we're not willing to take that risk.
Yes, that's what's happening here in Texas all the time.
Yeah.
These women are, miscarrying in bathrooms.
Right.
And bleeding all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
They told a woman here in San Antonio that she had to go back out in the parking lot and wait till, her fever got high enough for them to treat her.
Right.
For them to give her an abortion. She had to be septic.
Right.
And she not only had to be septic, she had to be at death's door. So infant mortality rates are going up, maternal mortality rates are going up. And the reason why is because Roe v. Wade was overturned.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly. And now what are we seeing? We're seeing all of these states, putting out their own initiatives, right? And like with what just happened in Ohio, right? And so you're putting it on the states to go ahead and do this. But then meanwhile, you have these Republican candidates who are all talking about how, no, we're going to do a national ban, whatever.
Yeah.
And some are saying 15 weeks, and some are saying, a complete ban,
Well, they thought they were getting, they were going to be cute about it by making a 15-week ban.
Right.
The governor of Virginia, what's his name? Youngkin?
Yeah.
He really thought he'd get away with that.
Yeah.
Because he was, he had a moderate stance.
Yeah, right.
But women saw right through that.
Right. Well,
and that's why they lost.
Well, and that's just it. It's like, this is where it blows up in their face, because, across the board on both sides of the aisle, there are women are seeing the real consequences, and they are grotesque, and they are gory, and it's not good. And so now, Republican women are waking up to the reality of what that means. And maybe they just kind of voted conservative because of all the bullshit that they, sold, like fiscal responsibility and, all this bullshit, right? And now all of a sudden, and they thought, oh no, they'll never really overturn it. So I'm just going to go ahead and vote this, vote against my own best interest, whatever. But here we are. And so
they don't understand. What they don't understand is they keep thinking they can manipulate us into voting against our own reproductive freedom.
Right.
That they can just, if they can just word it right.
Right.
If they can just, find some way to make it palatable.
Right. Right.
They're not just being cruel, which they are, because what they really want to do is control women.
Yes, absolutely. And then, even, somebody like Chris Christie, I know you were watching Morning Joe this morning.
Yeah, when Mika Brzezinski had enough of him.
Yeah.
And they're friends.
Yeah.
But he was lying once again. He said that in our state of New Jersey, they voted to allow women to have an abortion up to 9 months.
Right.
Well, that is so misleading because it's only legal up to viability, okay?
Right.
After that time, you have to, between you and your doctor, if something is horribly wrong, you can have an abortion to save your life, or because there's some sort of severe abnormality, fetus abnormality. It's so misleading, and he knows that. He knows no woman gets an abortion at 8 or 9 months or 7 months or even 6 months. That doesn't happen.
Well,
unless
right.
there's something terribly wrong.
Exactly. And I mean, Anita, this whole notion, it just is so insulting. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. That is, that is total bullshit. Because I don't know about you, Anita, but, I think when I was pregnant with you, Jimmy, my family and friends threw me, a baby shower, right? And I would say I was probably about 6 or 7 months. And, so you're looking at about 30 to 32 weeks, pregnant, for people that know that, like, with the pregnancy calendar, they go by weeks, right? And it's based off of a lunar calendar. Okay. So that said, so I was about 7 months. So by their standards, that would be considered, if I had to have an abortion, if there was a problem, that would be a late term abortion. So when, so basically when they throw out this narrative that a woman is going to just change her mind and this is what's going to happen, this is after you have maybe had found out the gender. You have had a shower, and at our baby shower, I received a handmade quilt from my mother and
Yeah.
like a hand crocheted sweater set from my grandmother. And so the notion that like at some point after that, I would be like, yeah, you know what? I just don't want
No,
to do
it's
this.
insane. It doesn't happen.
Right.
There's something, like I said, there's something horribly wrong when a woman has to have an abortion in the last trimester, a late term abortion.
Mm-hmm.
But that's it. It's not even anything else is feticide or is it
Infanticide, I believe is
yeah,
Mhm.
infanticide. Well, I don't know if it's an infant.
Okay, because you know that in my previous life I was a ultrasound tech.
Yeah.
Basically fetus until it's born, and then it becomes an infant.
Right. So if you have an abortion after viability,
Right.
I'm not sure what you call that, but that doesn't happen.
No, that doesn't happen. That would
doesn't
be
happen.
that would be cesarean section, I believe.
Yeah.
yeah. I
I
mean,
mean,
it's just it's
they're
ridiculous.
just lying. They're trying to manipulate people into going along with their
Mm-hmm.
authoritarian
Bullshit.
bullshit.
Well, right.
Exactly.
And it kind of goes right along with, when, oh, yes, there's a legitimate rape. See? Right. And, so you have a
Yeah.
bunch of old white men and Tim Scott
Deciding.
telling you that, you can shut that shit down, and
This
or,
is another thing.
yeah.
Well, this is another thing that bothers me about the exceptions. If you say, well, there'll be exceptions for rape and incest, then you give the game away. Because what you're saying is you don't really believe it's life.
Right.
Because if it was life, why would it be any, less life if it were product of rape or incest?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right? So they're giving the game away when they say that. And it really bothers me because what they're saying is, well, if you didn't have sex on purpose, if you weren't, acting like a slut,
Yeah.
then, we'll go ahead and let you, it wasn't your fault. You were raped. So, it's really insulting and it really gives the game away. This is about controlling women. Make no mistake about it.
Absolutely. So, going into 24, I mean, it is absolutely the issue that I feel, Democrats have to be out there with, right? To talk about this because, and, Anita, I know, I mean, it could be just like, this is, just kind of a story, but I mean, I had, so this is what I thought about when I was doing ultrasound and, I told you about this story and I'll just relay it really quickly, but, I scanned a woman who was 32 weeks. So that would have been right, about 7 months. And discovered that there was no heartbeat and that there was fetal demise, which means the fetus is dead, right? And so then basically what happens is that gets relayed to the radiologist, reads the report, the radiologist calls her doctor, and then back in the day when this happened, she would have had a conversation with her doctor and they would have set up a procedure that is basically an abortion to deliver that baby, to extract that baby from the womb, right? And so like this is the thing. And I mean, it could be hyperbole, it could be like maybe I'm going too far with this, but the reality is when somebody says, okay, we want a total ban. We're going to make a national ban, complete, like that Mike Johnson. Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. So what does that mean for like somebody like this woman who's 32 weeks and due to give birth in about another month? Are they forcing this poor, it's just cruel. It is absolutely
cruel. It is cruel.
And or like, what you were saying, where there's a heartbeat, but no head.
Yeah. There's no brainstem. And if the baby is going to die.
Yeah.
Like that one story, I think it was out of Florida, where that woman had to carry that baby, even though she knew it was going to die. And she had to carry it up to the end. And then when it was born, the grandfather was holding it and saying, oh my God, it's a miracle because the baby looked perfect.
Yep.
And he was like, oh my God, he's hiccuping.
Yeah.
And it wasn't hiccuping. He was gasping for air.
Yep. Well, that was that one. Yeah, that was that one that I mentioned earlier. That's the same story. Yeah.
I mean, it's heartbreaking. It's heart-wrenching. And that traumatized the grandfather and the mother. I mean, I can't even imagine having to go through that.
It's absolutely cruel. Yeah.
And guess what they're coming for next? They're coming for contraception.
Yes.
Make no mistake about it.
Yep.
Most of the Republicans, like 90% of them in the House, voted not to protect contraception.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
At least half of them voted against gay marriage to protect that.
Right.
So, I mean, they want to control everything. They say they're the party of freedom. No, they're not. They don't want freedom.
No.
They want control. They
Ab-
want someone to tell them everything's going to be okay. Daddy's in control.
Yeah, so that is the very real future that we face should Republicans take the executive branch, God forbid Trump, or any
Oh
of
my
them,
God.
really. And then,
That can't happen.
yeah, no, and that, they take the Senate and the House, right? So we have to look forward, and we have to fight, and we have to stay focused, and we need to make sure to get that message out. But, now this is kind of the portion where we go into what we like to call hard breaks, because Anita, you and I often are on the receiving end of a hard break.
Yes, we are.
So,
God,
we
I hate
kind
those heartbreaks.
yes. So we wanted to kind of talk about Democratic wins, right? And so,
Yes, we do.
yes,
We had some wins. We
'cause-
had some wins on Tuesday.
we had a lot of great things happen.
Yes,
So
it was a good day.
Yes. So here, one of them was Shannon Watts reported that 49 At Moms Demand volunteers across the U.S. won their races. That's
Yes.
great, right?
That is great. I mean, for the last 6 elections, Republicans have underperformed.
Yep.
Remember that. Ever since Trump, since 2016, every year since then, Democrats have come out ahead.
Yep.
And Republicans have underperformed.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
So we won races. And not only that, when you talk about Shannon Watts and the gun thing, also those moms of liberty, those Nazi moms that go around to the school boards and get books banned and stuff like that, they lost all of their races across Pennsylvania, across Ohio. I can't remember where else.
Yeah, well,
they
and
lost every single
specifically,
time.
absolutely, and specifically, 13 candidates that were endorsed in Iowa in 2023 for school board races. Out of the 13, only one won in a very small district that represents fewer than 1,000 students.
Yep.
So that is huge, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That is right.
Yeah,
In
and
Pennsylvania,
Yep.
Supreme Court. We won the Supreme Court in Pennsylvania. We won a seat there.
Yep.
New Jersey, we flipped 5 seats. Democrats flipped 5 seats in New Jersey, and Republicans thought they could take that House in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And then, of course, in Virginia, they won, I think, 2 seats in the House of Delegates. And they kept the Senate.
Yep.
So we had a great night. There's really nowhere where it was actually contested did we lose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just think that the tide is moving in our direction, and we have to increase it and just keep it going and do a blue tsunami come 2024. And I don't know about you, but I gotta say, I had come-uppance gasms hearing Ivanka get jeered as she went into the court.
Crime family.
Yeah, it was brilliant. It was so great. It feels good. I mean, we have to take the wins where we can and get the good feelings.
Not only that, but it's New York City, okay?
Right.
So Ivanka is getting jeered in New York City. She's going to be just like her dad. Nobody's ever going to accept her anywhere either. I heard they never get invited to anything in Miami where they live, or they live close to Miami. But yeah, you know what? I just think people are tired of, Republicans have pretty much exposed themselves for the fascists that they are.
Yep.
And
Absolutely. And everything, if you want to know what they're up to, look at what they're accusing Democrats of. This, along with all future episodes of TruBlu Politics, are sponsored by our wonderful TruBlu crew of listeners and our supporters on Patreon. As a small startup podcast, our Patreon members help us pay the bills to keep the ship sailing smoothly and also allow us to keep investing in equipment upgrades for even better quality content in the future. When you sign up as a monthly TruBlu crew member at even just $5, Anita, you instantly unlock our private TruBlu pod chat, as well as ad-free full episodes a day earlier than everyone else. And upwards from there, we've made more perks available, like having your name shouted out at the end of the show, and a personal Zoom call with me and Anita. Are you ready?
Hello, I'm here.
To discuss ways to overthrow the GOP. Are you ready to do this, Anita?
I am ready to do this. I've been ready to do this since like the last 20 years.
Exactly. So if that interests you at all, go visit us in the Patreon app or at patreon.com TruBlu Politics Podcast. That's patreon.com/TruBlu Politics Podcast. And as always, thanks so much for your love and support. Mwah.
Thank you, everybody. Let's talk about James Comer and Hunter Biden a little bit.
Okay. Well, all right.
Apparently, James Comer, who just is very upset about the $200,000 loan that Joe Biden gave to his brother, and his brother paid back. He's very upset about that.
Yeah.
Because, there's got to be something shady there. Well, it turns out James Comer lent his brother $200,000. And by the way, there does seem to be something shady going on there because he had a company. They put some of this money into a company that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
These were PPE loans, by the way.
Right. Oh yeah. Are you talking about the PPP loans that like people like Large Marge got and never paid?
Those?
Those?
The ones they don't have to pay back.
Yeah.
So something by their own bootstraps.
I know. Well, God. Unbelievable yet.
Unbelievable. Yeah. So anyway, that whole James Comer case, he doesn't have any evidence still. How long have they been on this Hunter Biden thing? I mean, months.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, and then, what was it that they were talking about, how they were saying, oh, and Joe Biden fired got rid of the prosecutor that.
I know.
It was like, no, the corrupt prosecutor.
Yeah, that's been debunked over and over again.
Yeah.
That was U.S. policy. Obama and the EU and the International Monetary Fund all wanted that prosecutor fired. And as a matter of fact, the Ukrainian parliament voted for him to be ousted. Joe Biden just carried the message. He just said, hey, if you don't do this, we're not going to be lending you any more money. Well, the IMF had was lending them a lot more than we were. And they said the same thing.
Right.
So it's just such a they know it's not true. By this time, they are just lying to us. They don't, I know in right-wing media, sometimes these guys get so, in their own bubble that you wonder whether or not they really believe this stuff. But by this time, I've watched Dan Goldman school James Comer, and he's like, are you sure about that? He asked Dan Goldman that when Dan Goldman pointed out that, this was a corrupt prosecutor that everybody wanted fired. And so, he's like, are you sure about that? And Dan Goldman's like, yes, I was one of the, the prosecutors in the first impeachment when it was all about Ukraine.
Yeah.
So, it's just so ridiculous. And this whole thing about this loan, my God, the biggest problem Mary Trump said is the loan was repaid because Donald Trump never repays his loans.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're like, hey, that seems fishy. But no, he loaned his brother $200,000, and this was when he wasn't even in office.
Right.
He wasn't a vice president. He wasn't a president. He wasn't even running for president at this time. It was 2017. So this is all a bunch of bunk. They know it.
And Hunter Biden never ever, was anywhere near the White House, and and yet, you have of course the Trump kids, right?
Yeah, they worked in the White House. They were advisors, okay?
Yeah.
They were in charge of all kinds of stuff. Jared Kushner, my God. We get $3 billion. We're talking about a $200,000 check. Are you kidding me?
Exactly. Yeah. And then, oh my God. Yeah. Going to Saudi Arabia to hang out with his bone saw murdering prince.
Which was also very suspicious, by the way.
Yeah.
Because right after that, he started murdering his competition there in Saudi Arabia. So somebody gave him some inside information. Somebody gets the daily briefings for Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Jared.
Yeah, or has boxes and boxes of classified information, right?
Yes, that's true. That's another problem. See, there's so
Jesus.
because he was waving around our strategy for a war with Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that. Look
Yeah.
where we are right now.
Right.
Iran is attacking us.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
And who knows what they know? Who
Right.
knows? We have no idea.
But I mean, and who could have seen it coming though, Anita? Like in the first month, he had Russians in the Oval Office and shared, highly classified
I know.
information about Israel.
That's true. It's so
Yeah.
surprising that he's kind of, loose with the classified stuff. I mean, and the funny thing is he ran against Hillary saying that he was going to be the best on, top secret. You have to know what that is. Hillary Clinton, the worst thing she ever did was have a private server.
Mm-hmm.
But there was nothing classified on that server, by the way.
Right.
And yet she lost when Comey came out and said, we found some more documents or something. This was all tied to her email,
Right.
her private email server,
Right.
which people were using to say she was mishandling classified documents. And then we look at Donald Trump, and my God, the man, he had him laying around in a bathroom, for God's sake.
Right.
What did the congresswoman call it? The shitter?
The shitter. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was great. Yeah, no, I mean it's ridiculous. And then, you look at just the on national, as far as national security goes and readiness and everything, and you talk about this, and I think you were probably a little more familiar with Tommy Tuberville than I was when he first came on the scene, but just with all of the holding up the top brass appointments and things like that.
I'm afraid that he's doing that, and the Republicans have gone along with it because if Trump gets back in office, then he'll allow these appointments to go forward, and they're going to be Trump loyalists. And then the military, then Trump will be able to do whatever he wants to do, whether it includes bombing Mexico, or going to war with Iran, or shooting protesters.
Yeah. Well, then they really will be his generals, right? That's what he wants.
Right. Yeah, exactly. He'll do exactly what he wants. That's what he wants around him. He wants to surround himself with yes men. There will be no bumper, for the cribs, the little bumper things.
Yeah, right. Yeah, guardrails. There will be no guardrails.
No guardrails.
At all.
He's such a baby. We would need something that babies need.
Well, first of all, you would have to put, like those little pluggy things in the outlets, right? You have to,
That's true.
Right.
You never know.
But we always thought, checks and balances, right? That they were going to baby-proof the White House, right? But they didn't.
Well, we thought that he would surround himself. This is what people kept telling us. Now, I knew better because look at the people he surrounded himself during the campaign. What's his name? Lewandowski. Steve Bannon. At that time, Michael Cohen. He wasn't surrounding himself with the best people. So I knew that he wasn't going to pick the best people because he doesn't know who the best people are. Right. He only knows pretty much the worst people. Because everybody he put in the cabinet was like the worst. Like for education, he put the woman that was responsible for all the charter schools in Michigan. So let's put her in charge of public education.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, exactly. It's like putting the wolf in charge of the hen house, right?
Yeah.
Or the fox.
And you put the dumbest, in the Department of Energy, you put Rick Perry. He's governor of Texas. When he ran for president during the debate, he said he wanted to cut some, different educate departments. And one of them was he said he wanted to eliminate the Department of Energy.
Right.
Of course, he couldn't remember the name of the Department of Energy.
Right.
Remember, he said, oops. Yeah. Well, Donald Trump put him in charge.
Yes.
Of the Department of Energy, which controls nuclear weapons. The dumbest guy you could think of.
Well, right. And who could, of course, who could forget Tillerson?
The head of Exxon.
Yeah, the head of Exxon, and so they put him in charge of the State Department, and he basically we had mass exoduses. I mean, this is the thing. When the media talks about speculating or like, well, what's it going to look like? What's a second term of Trump going to look like? we already know.
Oh, we know.
We
Yeah.
know. Like literally, I don't know how much wine you were drinking, Anita, but I was, I think
I was having a
I
little
was
bit of a problem.
thinking, I kind of developed a little bit of a problem, and it was kind of like I was like, okay, maybe I need to do an
I remember that.
intervention on
We were all like,
myself.
yes. Once Biden was elected, we kind of cut down. But now we're back up again. No, I'm kidding. But, it could happen.
Yeah. Okay, well, yeah. I mean, I probably have decreased my alcohol intake, but there are things that are legal here in Illinois.
Yeah,
That
they're not legal here in Texas.
they're not legal. Well, listen, I mean, and I've invited you and your entire family up to the free state of Illinois.
Yes, I know. I can't wait to go there. We're going to be there next summer.
Yeah. Yes.
But
yes. Yeah.
we're kind of stuck here in Texas for now.
Yep.
But I do worry about it. We talk about abortion.
Yeah.
And like I said, I have my daughter who's, like I said, she's just started teaching second grade. And I really worry because, she's thought about it. How could she be pregnant in the state of Texas? What if something went wrong?
Yeah.
And I always say, if the doctor has to choose between my daughter and the fetus, saving the fetus, I want them to choose my daughter. I mean, it's really scary because things happen. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to tell her she has to move out until, she has a baby, because you cannot be pregnant safely. It is a life-threatening situation to be pregnant in the state of Texas.
Well, and of course, then, we have all these things, where even though the media wants to try and, talk about, Joe Biden's age and not really focus on the wins. I mean, one of the best wins that we've seen recently was his going to the picket line for the UAW.
Absolutely.
Right?
I'm glad you brought that up. Yes.
Yeah.
And he looked fantastic. By the way, he was in Chicago yesterday.
Yeah. Was that the one that the soundbite where there's like kind of a dropping sound and he's like, to the media, that wasn't me.
That wasn't
The American workers are ready to work harder than anybody else, but they just need to be given a shot, a fair shot and a fair wage. That's not too much to ask. You okay? I want the press to know that wasn't me.
Hey, I want to tell the press that wasn't me.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny. And I like him doing that because it's self-deprecating. And it kind of takes some of the punch away from those kind of attacks.
Right. Well, yeah. And I mean, exactly right. And so, here, and I just love the fact that the head of the UAW, the union, I always want to say Sinn Féin, but it's Sean.
I do too. I know it's Sean
I know.
Féin.
Yeah, Sean Féin.
Let me tell my Sinn Féin, did his parents know what they were doing?
I know. I know.
Right?
I know. That's a political party.
Yeah.
In the
Don't put
motherland.
okay?
Yeah.
Sinn.
Yeah.
I mean, Sean.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, just the fact, like, compare, contrast. I mean, in addition to, having, Trump has a record now, and we know that it's like, it's like when he talks about, like what's going on in the Middle East and he's like, oh, we're just going to let it play out. Or just like, we're just going to turn, Gaza into a sheet of glass, whatever wild thing, parking lot. Yeah. Whatever he says, this is the thing, Anita. It's like, oh, we're just going to let it play out. You mean the way you let it play out with the pandemic, with COVID, when you knew it was a highly contagious, deadly virus, and I mean, that's the thing. We don't need to wonder.
He's a buffoon.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's doing. He's
No.
in over his head. He was always in over his head. He shouldn't be in any office.
No.
He shouldn't be a councilman.
No.
He shouldn't be in I don't know.
Dog catcher. Yeah.
School board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I
exactly.
mean, and this is the
He's a
thing.
buffoon.
He is the front runner for the Republican Party
know.
by a large margin, right?
It tells you a lot about the Republican Party. It tells you a lot about the Republican base.
Yeah.
They're just horrible people.
Mhm.
I mean, Hillary is right.
Yeah. They're deplorables.
They're
I think we can,
deplorables.
yeah,
And
they
they're
are.
irredeemable.
Absolutely.
Listen to them.
Yep. Absolutely. And so this is what we know about Trump, right? While Joe Biden is going again to the UAW, the picket line, right, to actually meet with union workers, right? He's going.
He walked the picket line with them.
Yeah, he walked the picket
president
line.
to ever do that.
Yeah, where did Trump go? What was it?
He went to a non-union shop.
Yeah.
there was actually, I think that was even funded, or they invited him, where people, I don't know what the name of the organization is, but it's an organization that fights against unions.
Right.
I think it's the Right to Work
Yeah.
organization, something
Yeah.
like that. But he doesn't listen to what he says about unions. He thinks unions are a waste of time. He thinks they ask for too much. I mean,
Are they suckers and losers?
well, he hasn't said that, but he probably has said that at some point. I mean, anybody that doesn't understand that Donald Trump does not care about working class hasn't been paying attention.
Right. Right.
Because he doesn't care. He doesn't want to have anything to do with you people.
Yeah. No.
He would spit on you. He would never let you into his private clubs. He doesn't even want to shake your hand.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really sad that these people think that like that woman that said, well, somebody asked her why she was at the rally and what she wanted Trump to do for her. She said, I lost my Medicare and I want him to get my Medicare back.
Right.
I'm like, oh my God. She was having problems with her back or something like that. He's not going to help you.
No.
I mean, what? But this is the kind of stuff you heard from the Nazis, from the people that supported Adolf Hitler. It was like a cult.
Right.
And when he would something would screw up in that country, they're always like, oh well, he must not know about that. That's the same attitude they have with Donald Trump. If something goes wrong, it's not his fault. It must be somebody else's. It's very scary. And now I understand how that happened, how countries fall into that.
No, I mean, that's just it. Like, I mean, I don't know how many times we've had a conversation and we just kind of like, okay, I remember sitting in, history class in high school, let's say, and, learning about, the lead up to the Holocaust, right? And World War II.
Yeah.
And just thinking like, how did that happen? How was that, and that it could never happen here. And I know, like, we all feel the same way about that. It is astonishing to me how easily it has been able to happen. And it is because, like we talk about like Nixon and how, the Republican Party back then, and really, let's be real. They only did it when they had to do it, when there was no other choice, right?
Exactly.
To hold him accountable. But here you have it again. And it's just like, but it's just like so astonishing because it's like, all of these people that like talked about how horrible and dangerous, like Miss Lindsay, talking about how terrible they were. And they have been running around, running cover, enabling him, covering up for him. And fuck you, Bill Barr.
They don't care about this country. They don't care about us because if they did, they would not allow this sociopath to run the country.
Exactly. Yeah.
They've exposed themselves. The whole Republican Party has exposed themselves.
Right.
I mean, basically, they have nothing to offer, really. They don't have anything to offer. That's why, nobody wanted what they had to sell anymore.
No.
Because it started with Reagan and the trickle down and all that stuff. And they got people to buy into it because we didn't know any better. And so eventually people started realizing, hey, this isn't working out for me so well. Nothing's trickling down to me. And so, people are like, no, they pretty much rejected all those Republican policies. And we see with the abortion stuff, those people, like, I can't remember what percentage, I think it was 40% of Trump supporters said that they support abortion rights. What they were selling, nobody wants to buy, because what are they selling? Tax cuts for the rich.
Yep.
Tax cuts for the wealthy.
Yep.
Tax cuts for the multinational corporations. And the rest of us, we pay for that.
Yeah.
Because we lose the things that we get from our taxes.
Right.
Things that help us.
Right.
So they don't care about that.
No.
That's why they don't want to spend anything on us.
Yeah. Well, what was it that we were talking about like during Obama, right? They are the party of no. They are a party of what what we're going to take away from you, right? They're never about, I mean, they're the party of looming government shutdowns, right? And we have that going on in what, a week or so,
They don't care.
They don't care. They don't
They're
care.
nihilists.
Yep. Because as long as they can, suppress enough votes or kick enough people off voter rolls, right? They lie, cheat, and steal. They can, just tilt it so that they stay in power. and
Democrats have to work twice as hard to win
right.
because of the gerrymandering, because of the way the
Mm-hmm.
Senate is works. Whereas, like Wyoming and California have the same amount of senators. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yes.
I mean,
Insane.
and with all these voter suppression laws in states like my state, Texas, like in Georgia, and all
Right.
across the South, really.
Right.
I mean, we saw that in Mississippi when they just kept running out of ballots.
Right.
For some reason, they just couldn't keep up with the ballots.
Right. Well, and you see these initiatives all over the country where they micro target, black communities, brown communities, and it just, yeah, I mean, this is what we're up against, right? And this is why it is so important. And we're a year away from the most consequential. I know we keep saying that, right?
No,
but it's like
this is
this,
between democracy and fascism.
Yeah.
We lose democracy if we lose this election.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it.
Absolutely.
I mean, this is not a joke.
No, it is not.
Not hyperbole.
It isn't, Anita. It's not a joke.
Not a
not
joke.
Hyperbole. Yeah. I mean, and so, I guess, what I think what we are going to be doing, going forward in these podcasts is also come up with, some, let us know what local races we should be, paying attention to. What are some of the ballot initiatives, near you, right? That we can get the word out and bring attention to, because we do have a lot of work. And, I think Carl Frisch says all the time, if you wake up the day after the election and you're not, completely exhausted, then you didn't do enough, right? So, I hope that, to going forward, we're going to have those conversations and come up with things like, what are plans of action? What are you going to do to educate yourself and then go and inform people in your life and, go on social media, right?
Also, we'll give you ways you can do that.
Yes.
Or, people to contact.
Yes.
Because you can do postcards if nothing else.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. If, look, if you can't go and door knock, or, whatever, you don't feel comfortable going indoor knocking, or, it's too much, the physicality of it all, then you know what? Write postcards.
Yes.
Phone bank, do text banking, So, yeah, I mean, there are so many ways that we can all get involved and work towards, getting Democrats election and bringing about that big blue wave that we need. So, yeah.
We have to win.
Yeah.
The only way that we rid ourselves of this MAGA, Trumpism, whatever, is by beating them electorally. And we don't just, we just beat them down. They cannot, that's the only way we're going to get rid of it. When they see that it's not winning for them,
right?
When it's losing for them every single time. And we've been doing that so far. The last 6 elections, like I said, Republicans have underperformed. Democrats have overperformed by a lot.
Right.
So we have to keep doing that.
Yes. Yeah.
In every election.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, so, the alarms are sounding, lights flashing, and it's just, we all have to do what we can do. And I mean, I know that, we talk about, Anita, a lot of times, staying positive, don't get complacent, but don't get so far into despair, right? That it paralyzes.
And I have a
you.
tendency to do that.
Well,
I get this.
Listen, we all do. I mean, you had to talk. We've both had to talk each other off the ledge many times. I mean, and it's understandable. And look, and I know Stephanie has talked about this. Frangela has talked. Practice self-care, and if you're feeling overwhelmed, then
Take a break.
Take a break.
Yeah.
Take a break.
Yeah,
we're
what I do.
Yeah, we're a team. We're a coalition of people. We are a resistance army, right? And fighting, to defeat fascism. And we talk about, you use that term Trumpism, right? And I know the media likes to use Trumpism as far as like, Trumpism has infected the Republican Party. I know.
It's the Republicanism. You're right.
I know. It's like Republicanism is Trumpism is fascism. Okay, that's what it is. Yeah. So
yeah. We're gonna, stay on top of that. We're gonna try to get some more information about how you can do more as we get closer to the elections.
Yeah, right.
And hopefully we'll be able to report from the convention That would be exciting.
That would be very cool because, of course, it's going to be here in Chicago. And then
I know.
if you come up here, then I will have to drag you over to the Sexy Liberal show, too, because that
Oh,
Steph and
no.
all her folks will be,
I don't know if I can handle that.
Anyway, so on that note, Anita, unless
Yes.
you have more to talk about, I'm going to get going here. So
Okay.
it's great.
Well, we will talk again.
Yep. Great talking to
And
you.
we'll be back. We'll be back the Sunday after next.
Yep.
In 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
So
See
we'll be
y'all.
back.
See y'all in 2 weeks. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
on a